Right now, a massive blizzard is hitting this remote village in Afghanistan. Winds over 80 kilometers per hour. Temperatures dropping below 30 degrees Celsius. In less than 10 minutes, every road will be gone. No electricity, no gas, no rescue. Families have one chance to survive. If the fire goes out, they freeze. If food runs out, they starve. If they make one mistake, it's over. And the only thing standing between life and death is a clay stove built 200 years ago. We're about to show you how an entire village fights the cold using nothing but tradition, fire, and time. Stay until the end, because what happens after the storm decides who survives. At first it is only a distant roar rolling down from the mountains, low and constant, like something alive. Then, in minutes, it becomes a wall of sound. Snow explodes into the valley, striking sideways, sharp and relentless. Visibility vanishes. The world turns white. This remote Afghan village has seen winter all its life, but this storm is different. The temperature drops fast. Breath freezes mid-air. Roofs disappear under heavy snow, and narrow paths between stone houses are erased as if they never existed. Doors are slammed shut, sealed with cloth and mud. Outside, survival becomes impossible. Inside one small stone house, Amina moves fast. She is 35, born in this valley, raised by winters that taught discipline and fear in equal measure. She recognizes the signs. Her mother warned her about storms like this, blizzards that trap villages for days, sometimes weeks. There is no electricity, no gas, no outside help, only tradition. Amina kneels beside the clay stove built into the floor, its surface cracked and darkened by decades of smoke. This stove has fed her family through countless winters. Tonight it must do it again. She stacks dried dung and carefully saved wood, lighting the fire with practiced hands. Flames rise briefly, then settle into glowing embers, controlled, patient, efficient. Fire must be preserved. Every spark matters. Outside, the storm screams louder, battering the stone walls as if testing them. Inside, warmth slowly returns. The family gathers closer. Children wrap themselves in thick wool blankets. Silence fills the room, broken only by the wind and the soft crackle of fire. The blizzard has sealed the village off from the world. What happens next will decide who endures and who does not. And it all begins here, beside the fire. Morning arrives without light. Snow presses against the small window, blocking the sun, turning the room into a cold blue shadow. Time loses meaning. Outside, the wind continues its assault, burying the village deeper with every hour. Inside, the fire is still alive. Amina wakes before the others. The embers glow faintly beneath ash, fragile but breathing. She feeds them slowly, never rushing. Fire here is not about heat alone. It is about survival strategy. The clay stove begins to warm the stone floor. Heat spreads gradually, trapped low to the ground where it matters most. This design is ancient, perfected by generations who learned to cook without wasting energy. She mixes flour and water with stiff fingers, kneading dough slowly to save strength. There is no room for mistakes. Every ingredient is measured, every movement intentional. The dough is flattened and placed carefully against the inner walls of the stove, where it will bake using stored heat, not open flame. A pot is set above the embers, lentils, melted snow, a pinch of salt. The lid is sealed tight. Cooking is slow, almost meditative, but the tension never leaves. Fuel must last. Food must stretch. The storm could trap them for days. The children wake and move closer to the stove, holding their hands out for warmth. Their breath fogs the air. Outside, the wind howls like an animal circling the house. The smell of bread begins to rise. It changes everything. Fear softens. Shoulders relax. The fire crackles quietly, steady and loyal. In this moment, cooking becomes more than routine. It becomes resistance. The blizzard may control the outside world, but inside this stone house, tradition still holds the line. Snow has buried the doors halfway up the stone walls. No sound comes from the village anymore. No footsteps, no voices, only wind dragging ice across the roofs. The blizzard has isolated every family, each one fighting the cold alone. Inside the house, the fire is weaker. Amina counts what remains by touch in the dark. A few pieces of wood, several dried dung cakes, far less than she hoped. Every decision now carries weight. The temperature drops further after sunset. Cold seeps through the stones, creeping along the floor and into the bones. The children huddle together beneath layers of wool, their movements slower, quieter. Even breathing seemed louder in the frozen air. The embers glow faintly. Amina kneels close, shielding the stove with her body as she feeds it carefully. Too much fuel will burn fast. Too little, and the fire will die. She has learned this balance since childhood, watching her mother cook through winters when survival depended on patience, not strength. The pot on the stove holds only thin soup now. Bread is rationed, broken into smaller pieces. No one complains. Hunger is secondary to warmth. Outside, the wind screams again, shaking the wooden beams overhead. For a moment, the fire flickers dangerously low. Amina's heart tightens. She looks around the room and makes a decision she hoped to avoid. An old wooden tool, hand-carved decades ago, rests against the wall. She breaks it carefully, feeding the pieces into the stove. The flames respond, not strong, not loud, but alive. That night, the family eats in silence, gathered as close as possible to the heat. Shadows dance across the walls as the storm continues its assault. The fire survives, and as long as it does, so do they. After days of constant wind and pounding snow, the night ends without sound. No howl, no shaking walls, just stillness. For the first time, the fire crackles louder than the storm. Amina wakes before dawn and listens. Nothing. She pushes the door carefully. It resists, heavy with snow. With effort, it opens just enough for light to flood the room. Sunlight reflects off endless white, blinding and calm. The blizzard is gone. The village has survived. Snow reaches up to the windows. Roofs are buried, but still standing. Smoke rises slowly from several houses, thin, steady lines against the pale sky. Fires are still burning. Neighbors begin to emerge, moving carefully, calling out to one another. Faces are tired, cheeks cracked by cold, but eyes are bright with relief. Everyone understands what this means. They endured. Outside, families work together, clearing paths and helping those whose doors are completely sealed. Cooking moves outdoors for the first time in days. Stoves are shared. Pots are placed side by side on the snow, fed by small but determined fires. Bread is broken and passed from hand to hand. The warmth now is not just from the flames, but from people gathering again. Stories of the storm spread quietly. Who lost fuel, who almost lost fire, who stayed awake all night feeding embers. Amina stands beside her stove, watching steam rise into the cold air. What kept them alive was not luck nor modern tools. It was knowledge. Cooking methods shaped by centuries of winters like this. Patience learned from elders. Respect for fire as something to protect, not waste. The mountains remain frozen. Winter is far from over, but the village stands. And as long as the fire is remembered, so will they. If this village survived using nothing but fire and tradition, imagine what we can learn from them. If this story shocked you, hit like right now so more people can see it. Subscribe, because the next survival story is even more extreme. And comment fear if you believe knowledge is stronger than technology. Your support keeps these stories alive.